welcome to our barn with our barn kitty. So this barn is very piecey. There's a lot of different sections that all came from the different uses that the previous owners had. But this was originally a dairy barn. So this was what was called the milk room. Over here, you're going to see the dairy sink. So this used to have a drain. They used to use it, obviously, within the processes of the milk and everything like that. Got milk filters. So there's like testimony to the fact that this was a barn, but it's just in rough shape. There's stuff everywhere. This needs to come out. We are going to keep that and try and shine it up. And I don't even know if I'm going to plant something in it. I don't know. But we're going to use it somehow, some way. The color in here I love. I love the blue color, so we're going to keep that, but it just needs to be cleaned up. We need to redo all the electric in here, take all the vines out. So the electric is probably the most pressing thing right now, just because we can't turn the lights on. So that'll be nice to have some electric in here. Now moving into the other parts of the barn. This is the newest part of this barn, is the hydrant, so thank God there's at least something new in this barn. Besides the barn kitties, who their job is going to be to at least try and keep the mice out. So they're still pretty little right now. Pretty sure a rat would be bigger than them, but they're in training. So we'll go to this part of the barn first. This is what was kind of called the 4-H part of the barn, but it also was the original part of the dairy barn. So down here, you're going to see like a trench. It was the gutter system. They would put the cows with their heads facing that way. Obviously, if you're at the back end side of the cow, there's going to be a lot of waste. So they dug kind of like a trench here. It is concrete underneath, which is really nice. But they have that in place, so that'll be kind of nice. But then whenever the dairy farm was done or new owners took ownership, they put these in. So these were pig stalls. So as of right now, it just serves as a litter box for whatever critters live in here. You're going to see there's definitely proof that animals have been in there. So we're probably going to take all of this out. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do in terms of if we want to open up this wall and have it be kind of like an indoor-outdoor lean-to, if we want to do stalls in here. This is obviously something that we're going to have to address. We're just going to have to take a lot of stuff out. And then there's just holes all over this barn. This barn is not sealed well by any means. The windows aren't sealed well. So it's going to be a constant struggle to figure out what it is that we want to keep versus what we want to replace with things that are modern. I'm a purist, so I don't want to have to replace things if we don't have to. This part of the barn is cool. The one thing that they did really well is they put a brand new steel roof on years ago, which kept all the moisture out, because once you get moisture in these barns, everything goes. So they did a good job of putting a roof over this barn, over the top of the hay loft. I'm a purist. I don't want to have to replace old with new unless we need to. But in order to keep this thing functional, we're probably going to have to replace a lot of the old. Right now the big debate is, do we put steel siding on top of the pretty old red wood? Because the previous owners did paint the entire barn. It's beautiful from the road, but when you get inside, you just see that it is not sealed by any means. And I don't know if you can really do that without steel. I'll open this up so that we can see. Opening this up, this is a part of the barn that was really cool. So the previous owner pointed this out. They put 1886 on it. Now I'm not sure if that's when the original barn was built. He said that's when the original barn was built, in 1886. But we've had like my dad, a couple people in here who have looked around and said it could be 1886, it could be really 1900s. They're kind of trying to figure out, based on the materials that were used and the construction type, if it is 1886. I want to believe it's 1886 because that would be really like old barn and really cool. But this is another section of the barn. We'll take you up into the hayloft here in a little bit. It's my favorite part. But the previous owners before us lived here for over 20 years. They didn't have any animals. This was literally just a place that they could put stuff. So our first job is going to be to take everything out. Some of it we can use. I mean, some of it is steel and fencing and different things that we can use, but a lot of it's just stuff we have to get out of here. And once we get all this out of here, then we have to address the larger problem, which is the critters that have created foundational problems. So they've dug out massive holes underneath even the existing concrete that we're going to have to put dirt back into to make sure that there's a firm surface underneath the concrete before we can really start deciding on the larger renovations. So we're going to be able to skip our workouts for a while as we take all this stuff out. We have the live trap set, so hopefully we can get some of the critters that have been doing damage. The only thing we've got so far is cats. So unfortunately, the cats that are supposed to keep the critters out are the only things that are falling into the live trap, which is another problem. But like I said, first step is to get some of this out. If you follow me this way, we'll go to part of the stall section of the barn, which once again is just full of stuff. Some of it we can use, some of it we can't use, but there's also piles of animal poop in here. The raccoons, everything has been in here. Sorry to say that their tenancy without rent is about to end, thank goodness. But there's just going to be so much work here. So these were originally stalls, obviously, that they had. You can see the bunks at the front of the stalls. The wood, we'll show you in the external side, is just beautiful, but this is a perfect example. When you are far away from the barn, you can't see how many gaps there are in the the siding, but there's just a ton of gaps, right? So unfortunately, I think we're going to have to steal this thing if we want to make it operational to the point that we need it to be. But more to come on that. This is the best example of what these critters can do. So they have buried their way down underneath the concrete that exists that's helping to hold this up. So we have got to get some more dirt in there to shore that up. There's like tunnels you can see here. It's just amazing. So we're going to have to do some damage control here. We're going to have to get a skid loader in here to try and pull a lot of this out, because a lot of this dirt is really just poop that has solidified and piled up over the years, and now it's really hard, but it's not dirt. So we need to break a lot of that up, take it out. And then this is another way to get to kind of that awning part of the barn. So I do like that there's a way from both sides of this, since it is a little piecey, to get in here. The people here before us had sheep in the pasture, so, or they rented out to somebody who had sheep here, so they've got like some chutes set up. It is nice because there's a big door over on that side so that you can open it up and load and unload animals into the underhang before they get out of the barn. But that's the most functional part of the barn right now. So that kind of tells you how much work we need to do. But as of right now, step one is going to be just removal of stuff. And boy, is there. I'm also somewhat nervous of what we're going to find as we start lifting stuff up. Maybe some critters, maybe bees, I'm not sure, but I don't think I'm going to like it either way. And then this is the way that we get up to the hayloft. So I guess we'll take you up to the hayloft. So we're probably going to change the ladder system getting up here too, just because it's kind of weird. You've got to go from one side to the other, and you're kind of praying as you go up there, and it makes sense because there is a, ladder to heaven, I guess, that just kind of stops. So maybe you are on a prayer as you're climbing up to the hayloft. But either way, the thing that Boone and I are kind of trying to deliberate as we talk to some people is, we know no matter what, there's going to be a ton of sweat equity that's going to go into this. We're going to be doing all the work, pulling things out, doing a lot of the dirt work, having friends help us. I think we're going to get a lot of gratification from that process too, because one of the coolest parts is knowing you're part of a restoration on something like this. I think that means a lot to both of us. The other side of that though is sweat equity is one thing, but the money side of trying to figure out at what point does it not make sense to try and restore something or keep it in its original condition versus doing something like bringing the steel siding in. Those kind of conversations are going to be hard. It's probably going to take a lot of research to try and put all the pieces together. But I do know we're both on the same page with trying to keep as much of the integrity of this place in place as possible, while also trying to make it operational. Because at the end of the day, we want animals. So we need a place to store the animals. I have been known to make rash decisions on wanting things like cows and many donkeys. I love it up here as a kid. I would have loved to have a space like this to kind of hang out in and have imagination, go wild. I don't know. I'm sure we would have put some type of swing up here. But this is one of the things that kind of had us stumped on when this was originally built. So there's steel bolts that have been used to kind of reinforce the construction. There's also wood pegs that have been used. And kind of talking to my dad and my grandpa, we're kind of trying to figure out what that means or nail down a timeline. No doubt about it, this is an old barn. It's just, is it 1886 old? Is it 1910 old? We're trying to figure that out. The saving grace here, as I kind of said before, is the roof. So they put a steel roof on this building, which kept a lot of that moisture out. If they wouldn't have done that, I don't think this would even be here right now. We definitely wouldn't be able to be up here because the moisture would have come through, rotted all of this out, and then therefore rotted out probably a lot of the structural beams below. So thank God somebody had the foresight to do that. But I think it's so cool up here. First step is to pull all of that old hay and straw out. That, like I said, nobody had animals that owned this place for over 20 years. So that's been there for at least 20 years, if not longer. The critters have loved it up here. There's a dead raccoon carcass over there. There's animal poop everywhere. So just like the rest of the barn, it's going to be Operation Clean Out up here before we can really examine all of the floorboards. I mean, a lot of it's sound enough for me to walk up here and be okay walking up here, but we definitely need to inspect the quality of it, make some repairs, sure up a couple of spots, or sister up a couple of boards to make sure you're not going to fall through at the weak point. And then the other thing too, well, two things, you can see through. So obviously, as we talk about the steel siding, you can see through so many areas up here. From the outside, it's beautiful, and because the paint job is so good and new, it's hard to see just how gapey it is in a lot of the boards. But when you get in here, there's no other light, so you can see the sunlight come in. You really do realize, okay, if we want this thing to be sealed up well enough to feel good about it being operational for the next how many years, we probably do need to use steel. So more to come on that. The other thing, and we'll show you the hay hooks, but this system right here, they've got two different things. So they've got the pulley system for the doors so that they could open and close all the doors, bring hay up, but we also have hay hooks that originally were hung up here, and they would use those to grasp the bales and to pull them up here, move them around up here. It's really kind of rare to find those from the original barn that they had them in, let alone to find them still operational. They still open and close really well, despite steel and elements and what that does. And we're going to try and hang them up here. So we still have all the chains, the pulley system. So I would like to put that up here too, kind of as like an homage to the history of the barn.